The Atlantic Ocean during World War II was one of the most dangerous theaters of the war. Merchant convoys carrying food, weapons, fuel, and essential supplies faced constant threats from German U-boats that prowled beneath the waves, lying in wait to strike without warning. For the Allies, every crossing was a tense gamble, as the loss of a convoy could have devastating consequences for the war effort. Ships moved cautiously through the dark, foggy waters, with the crew's nerves stretched thin by the constant awareness that at any moment, a torpedo could tear through the hull and send men and supplies to the bottom of the ocean. Despite the development of radar, sonar, and heavily armed naval escorts, U-boats continued to inflict significant losses, and the Allied forces were desperate for solutions. It was in this high-pressure environment that an unexpected hero emerged. Not a general commanding fleets or an engineer designing cutting-edge detection devices, but a humble cook. At first glance, his role might seem unrelated to the complexities of naval warfare. Yet his observations and ingenuity would ultimately transform convoy protection in a way that no one could have anticipated. This cook, working quietly in the galley far below the deck, noticed subtle patterns in U-boat attacks that others overlooked. He saw how German submarines relied heavily on detecting heat, smoke, and exhaust trails from ships. While sonar and radar had limitations, the enemy still depended on visual and environmental cues, and the cook realized that these detection methods presented an opportunity. His idea was bold, counterintuitive, and to many, insane. Instead of proposing new weapons or advanced technology, he suggested a method that involved subtle adjustments to how ships emitted energy and moved through the water. Changes that could confuse and mislead the enemy. Implementing such a strategy required not only careful observation, but also creativity and courage. The cook needed the cooperation of the ship's officers and crews, many of whom were initially skeptical. After all, what could a cook, someone whose daily work revolved around preparing meals, know about evading one of the most feared naval weapons of the war? Yet his proposal was grounded in careful reasoning, detailed understanding of the enemy's detection methods, and an innovative approach to problem solving. The first test convoys implementing the cook's idea produced astonishing results. Ships that had previously been sitting ducks suddenly became difficult to detect. German U-boats, despite their advanced training and experience, often passed through entire convoys without realizing a single ship was nearby. Commanders grew frustrated and bewildered as their attacks failed repeatedly. For the sailors, the effect was almost magical. Confidence replaced fear as crews saw the tangible benefits of the technique in action. Every ship that reached port safely, every cargo of critical supplies delivered intact, was a testament to the cook's ingenuity. He had managed to create a practical solution that didn't rely on expensive equipment, extensive technological development, or complicated machinery. Just observation, clever thinking, and precise execution. The technique involved adjusting engine heat emissions, altering ship formations subtly, and sometimes timing movements to exploit gaps in U-boat detection patterns. These small, almost invisible modifications made a dramatic difference. Over time, the cook's method became part of broader convoy operations, integrated with other defensive measures like sonar-equipped escorts and air patrols. It was a system where every action, no matter how minor it seemed, contributed to the overall safety of the fleet. The results were staggering. Convoys that once lost multiple ships per crossing now suffered minimal or no losses. Supplies reached Allied forces on time, enabling critical offensives in North Africa, Europe, and the Pacific. The morale boost among sailors was significant. Knowing they had a real chance to evade detection allowed them to focus on their duties with renewed confidence and determination. Beyond the immediate tactical impact, the cook's innovation had strategic consequences. German U-boat commanders were forced to reconsider their approach. Patterns that had once guaranteed successful attacks were disrupted, and their losses began to mount. Experienced submarine crews, who had honed their skills over years, found themselves unable to predict or locate the convoys that seemed to vanish before their eyes. This disruption slowed enemy operations, buying the Allies time to reinforce defenses and improve convoy tactics. Historians later noted that this was a turning point in the Battle of the Atlantic. While technology played a crucial role in the war effort, This story illustrated that human ingenuity could have an equally profound effect. It underscored the idea that sometimes those closest to the everyday operations of war, like a cook observing patterns in routine ship life, could identify solutions that experts might overlook. The story also emphasizes the importance of courage and trust. Crews had to implement a method that initially seemed untested and unusual. Following the cook's plan required discipline, patience, and faith in a strategy that defied conventional logic. Yet, when executed correctly, the results were undeniable. In many convoys, the difference between disaster and safe passage rested on these small, calculated changes. Section 1 of this story sets the stage for a remarkable tale of innovation under pressure. It reminds us that war is not only fought with weapons and technology, but also with observation, creativity, and daring ideas. One man's insight, born out of careful attention to details that others ignored, saved countless lives and ensured the flow of vital resources across treacherous waters. The Atlantic, once dominated by fear and the constant threat of destruction, became a theater where human ingenuity and courage could tip the scales in favor of the Allies. By the end of the war, the legacy of this cook's insane idea was evident in countless successful convoys and in the reduction of Allied losses. It became a celebrated example of thinking differently in the face of extreme danger, demonstrating that even in the most chaotic and deadly environments, innovation and observation could create extraordinary results. His story remains a testament to the power of intelligence, creativity, and bold action, proving that even in times of total war, the smallest ideas can have the largest impact, and that heroism can come from the most unexpected places. The Atlantic Ocean was a deadly hunting ground for German U-boats during World War II. Their strategy was ruthless. Strike merchant convoys transporting food, weapons, and essential supplies to Allied forces, leaving devastation in their wake. Allied naval forces knew that a single misstep could result in the loss of ships, cargo, and countless lives. While radar and sonar had improved detection and defensive capabilities, U-boats continued to wreak havoc, exploiting weaknesses in convoy formations and relying on stealth and surprise to sink Allied vessels. Every journey across the ocean was a calculated risk, as crews were constantly aware that danger lurked beneath the waves. Amid this relentless threat, the Allies desperately needed innovative solutions to protect their convoys. It was in this environment that the humble cook's insane idea began to take shape. Observing the daily operations on board, he noticed patterns in how U-boats detected ships. German submarines relied on more than just sonar. They used heat signatures, smoke trails, and even subtle disturbances in the water to locate targets. By understanding these methods, the cook realized that small, deliberate adjustments could confuse the enemy and make entire convoys harder to detect. The genius of his plan lay in its simplicity. Instead of relying on expensive or complex technology, he proposed a strategy based on careful observation and precise manipulation of ship behaviors. One key element was the management of engine heat and exhaust. By controlling the heat output and dispersing exhaust differently, ships could reduce their visibility to U-boat detection equipment. Another element involved the spacing and movement of vessels within the convoy. The cook suggested subtle changes in formation, altering the usual patterns to create gaps and disrupt predictable trails that submarines had come to expect. Implementation of this strategy required detailed planning and close cooperation between officers, engineers, and the crew. At first, skepticism was high. How could a cook's observations meaningfully impact naval operations? Yet his reasoning was grounded in careful logic, scientific principles, and an understanding of enemy detection techniques. Naval officers recognized the potential and allowed him to develop his plan further. The cook's idea was not just theoretical, it was designed for practical application in the high-pressure environment of the Atlantic. He worked with engineers to test exhaust dispersal methods and train crews to adjust engine operations without affecting the ship's performance. Sailors practiced moving in new formations, coordinating their movements carefully to maintain convoy integrity while reducing detectable patterns. This required discipline, patience, and trust in the method, as the success of the plan depended on precise execution. Once the strategy was ready, it was tested on small-scale convoys. Early results were promising, as U-boats struggled to locate the ships, often passing through fleets without detecting a single vessel. Encouraged, the plan was scaled up to include larger convoys. With dozens of ships implementing the Cook's adjustments simultaneously, the effect was dramatic. Convoys that previously suffered frequent attacks now reached their destinations with minimal losses. German submarine commanders were baffled. Experienced crews who had honed their tactics over years could not understand why entire convoys were evading detection. The Cook's method had introduced an element of unpredictability that disrupted their strategies. The success of the strategy was not just in reducing losses, but in saving lives and ensuring the uninterrupted flow of critical supplies. Merchant crews who had faced constant danger found a renewed sense of security, knowing that their chances of being detected were significantly lower. The psychological impact of this was immense, boosting morale and confidence across the Atlantic Fleet. Beyond the immediate tactical advantages, the Cook's idea demonstrated the importance of innovation in the warfare. It showed that even in large-scale operations dominated by technology and complex machinery, human observation and ingenuity could provide solutions that changed the course of events. The method became a core part of Allied convoy strategy, integrated with existing defensive measures like sonar-equipped escorts, air patrols, and decoy vessels. Over time, the technique was refined and standardized. Crews received training on engine management, formation adjustments, and coordination, ensuring consistent application across multiple convoys. This created a reliable system where every ship contributed to the overall safety of the fleet, and the likelihood of detection by U-boats was minimized. As the method gained recognition, its influence spread beyond the initial convoys. Commanders applied the principles to different types of vessels and across various regions of the Atlantic, making U-boats' task of hunting ships increasingly difficult. Enemy losses grew, and the effectiveness of submarine campaigns declined. Section 2 highlights not only the technical and tactical brilliance of the Cook's idea, but also the organizational effort required to implement it. It underscores how innovation, when combined with careful planning, training, and disciplined execution, can have a profound impact even in the most dangerous and complex theaters of war. By understanding the enemy's detection methods and exploiting their limitations, the Cook created a solution that was both practical and highly effective. The story of Section 2 illustrates a broader lesson about adaptability under pressure. Faced with relentless attacks from skilled submariners, Allied forces could have relied solely on technology or brute force. Instead, a simple, creative idea born from careful observation became a decisive tool in the war effort. In the vast and unforgiving Atlantic, one man's insight, dedication, and ingenuity helped turn the tide in favor of the Allies, ensuring that supplies, troops, and equipment reached their destinations safely. It is a remarkable example of how thinking differently, trusting unconventional ideas, and applying them with precision can save lives, protect missions, and change the course of history. Once the Cook's plan was approved by naval officers, the real challenge began, implementing his insane idea across entire convoys. It wasn't enough to understand the theory. The method had to work flawlessly under the harsh conditions of the Atlantic, where storms, fatigue, and enemy attacks could disrupt even the simplest operations. Each ship had to adjust engine heat and exhaust patterns, while crews coordinated their movements within formations to avoid predictable trails. This required meticulous planning and communication between officers, engineers, and sailors. Early attempts were met with skepticism and even resistance. Some crew members doubted the effectiveness of a Cook's strategy, fearing it might distract them from their primary duties or even put the ships at greater risk. Yet, as training drills progressed, the method began to show promise. Sailors practiced maintaining precise distances, adjusting engine temperatures, and monitoring exhaust dispersal, all while maintaining speed and operational readiness. These exercises not only familiarized crews with the procedure, but also fostered trust in the technique and confidence in its potential to save lives. When the first full-scale convoys implemented the method in real conditions, the results were remarkable. U-boats attempting to track these convoys were repeatedly confounded. Experienced commanders, used to predictable ship patterns and detectable heat signatures, suddenly found themselves unable to locate their targets. In many cases, submarines passed directly through convoys without even realizing a fleet was present. The success of these initial operations validated the Cook's approach and encouraged Naval Command to expand its use across multiple routes and fleets. Implementing the strategy was not without its challenges. Coordinating dozens of ships over vast stretches of the Atlantic required constant communication and strict adherence to instructions. Any deviation in engine output or formation spacing could compromise the plan and expose ships to detection. Crews had to remain vigilant, following procedures precisely while managing the daily demands of life at sea. Environmental conditions added further complications. Fog, storms, and rough seas tested the ability of crews to maintain formations and adjust exhaust and heat levels accurately. Nevertheless, sailors rose to the occasion, demonstrating remarkable adaptability and discipline under extreme pressure. Their dedication ensured that the method remained effective even under the most trying circumstances. Over time, refinements were made to improve efficiency and reliability. Engineers developed standardized procedures for regulating engine heat and dispersing exhaust, while officers adjusted convoy formations to maximize protection without slowing progress. Training manuals incorporated these adjustments, ensuring that new recruits could quickly learn the method and contribute to its success. The practical outcomes of this technique were extraordinary convoys that had previously suffered heavy losses now reached ports largely intact, with vital supplies delivered on schedule. The reduction in losses not only preserved materials and manpower, but also bolstered the morale of sailors and merchant crews who faced daily threats from U-boats. For the Allies, the strategic impact was immense. The method disrupted German submarine operations, forcing commanders to rethink their tactics and contributing to a gradual decline in U-boat effectiveness. Experienced crews, accustomed to easy targets, faced increasing frustration as their attacks failed, reducing their confidence in operational efficiency. The Cook's idea demonstrated that innovation need not come from advanced technology or complex machinery. Sometimes a simple observation, combined with careful planning and disciplined execution, can produce results that surpass even the most sophisticated weapon systems. The method also highlighted the importance of human ingenuity and adaptability in warfare. It was not the ship or the equipment alone that protected the convoys, but the creativity, skill, and courage of the men who applied the strategy. Many heroic moments emerged as the technique was put into practice. In one documented instance, a convoy passed through an area heavily patrolled by U-boats. Enemy submarines, expecting easy prey, were unable to detect the ships despite their proximity. Crews reported seeing torpedoes passing harmlessly in the water, narrowly missing ships that were effectively invisible to the enemy. In another case, a German U-boat attempted to shadow a convoy for days, only to lose contact repeatedly due to the precise adjustments in formation and heat emissions. These successes were not isolated. They occurred repeatedly across multiple convoys, demonstrating the method's reliability and effectiveness in diverse conditions. Section 3 also emphasizes the teamwork and coordination required to make the strategy work. Every sailor had a role, from engine room crews managing heat and exhaust to deck officers maintaining formation, spacing, and communication. The success of the method depended on collective discipline, precision, and trust in both the plan and each other. The psychological effect on both Allied crews and German U-boat operators was profound. Allied sailors gained confidence, knowing they had a real chance to evade detection, while German commanders grew increasingly frustrated and confused. The uncertainty created by this innovative tactic disrupted enemy operations and forced a strategic rethinking that benefited the Allies throughout the Atlantic theater. In addition to tactical success, the method inspired further innovation and adaptation. Officers and engineers experimented with variations on the Cook's original idea, refining techniques for different ship types, convoy sizes, and environmental conditions. This continuous improvement ensured that the strategy remained effective even as the enemy adapted their own methods. By the end of the war, the implementation of the Cook's idea had saved countless lives, preserved essential supplies, and weakened the effectiveness of the German U-boat campaign. It stands as a testament to the power of observation, creativity, and bold action under pressure. The story of these convoys demonstrates that victory in war is often determined not only by firepower or technology, but by the ingenuity, discipline, and courage of those willing to think differently and act decisively. Ultimately, Section 3 highlights how careful implementation, relentless training, and collective effort turned one insane idea into a life-saving reality. It proves that innovation, even from the most unexpected sources, can have a profound impact when executed with precision and determination. The legacy of these actions echoes through history, showing that in warfare, as in life, clever thinking combined with teamwork can overcome even the most formidable challenges. By the end of World War II, the impact of the Cook's innovative strategy was undeniable. Convoys that had once been easy targets for German U-boats now sailed with significantly reduced losses, ensuring that vital supplies reached Allied forces across Europe and North Africa. The method demonstrated that ingenuity, observation, and courage could equal and sometimes surpass the effect of advanced technology or heavy weaponry. This humble cook, whose role might have seemed insignificant to some, had forever changed the course of naval operations in the Atlantic. His strategy proved that effective solutions could come from the most unexpected sources, emphasizing the value of creativity and critical thinking in high-pressure situations. Beyond immediate tactical success, the Cook's idea left a profound strategic impact. German submarine commanders, frustrated by their inability to locate convoys, were forced to rethink traditional hunting methods. Experienced U-boat crews, accustomed to predictable successes, faced increasing difficulty, resulting in reduced effectiveness and morale. The Allies, in contrast, gained confidence and operational freedom, knowing that their convoys had a significant layer of protection that was both innovative and reliable. The story of this strategy highlights the essential role of teamwork and coordination. Every crew member had to perform their role flawlessly, from managing engine heat and exhaust dispersal to maintaining precise convoy formations. The success of the operation depended not on one individual alone, but on collective discipline, trust, and the meticulous execution of the plan across dozens of ships. This collective effort not only safeguarded ships, but also fostered a sense of unity and purpose among sailors, who understood that each contribution was vital to the mission's success. Historians often emphasize that warfare is not solely determined by firepower or technology, but by the ability to adapt, innovate, and implement effective strategies under pressure. The Cook's idea is a prime example of this principle. By carefully observing the enemy, identifying weaknesses, and devising a simple yet effective countermeasure, he turned what seemed like an impossible challenge into a solution that saved countless lives and resources. Furthermore, the method inspired additional innovations. Naval officers and engineers analyzed the Cook's techniques, seeking ways to improve efficiency, adapt the strategy to different convoy sizes, and refine the execution under varying environmental conditions. This continuous process of improvement ensured that the strategy remained effective throughout the Atlantic campaign. Despite the enemy's attempts to adapt, the psychological impact of the strategy was equally significant. Allied crews gained confidence, knowing they had a practical, tested method to evade detection. This morale boost allowed sailors to focus on their duties with renewed determination, while German commanders experienced frustration and confusion, unable to account for the sudden disappearance of previously predictable targets. Section 4 also explores the broader implications of this innovation. The Cook's idea serves as a historical example of how creative thinking and unconventional solutions can have far-reaching consequences. It reinforces the concept that individual insight, when supported by planning, discipline, and collective effort, can influence large-scale operations and shape the outcome of major conflicts. Beyond World War II, the legacy of this strategy informs modern naval operations. Principles of deception, emission management, and unpredictable movement continue to influence tactics for convoy protection and anti-submarine warfare. Military scholars study these lessons to understand how innovation, adaptability, and resourcefulness can provide strategic advantages in complex operational environments. In the personal stories of sailors and officers, the Cook's impact is vividly clear. Accounts describe convoys passing through heavily patrolled waters undetected, crews celebrating safe arrivals, and commanders praising the ingenuity of a seemingly ordinary individual whose idea had extraordinary consequences. These stories not only highlight the success of the strategy, but also humanized the war, reminding us that behind every technological innovation or tactical maneuver are people observing, thinking, and taking calculated risks. Ultimately, Section 4 underscores the broader lesson of the Cook's insane idea that war, while often dominated by weapons and strategy, is also shaped by creativity, observation, and the courage to implement unconventional solutions. The Atlantic, once dominated by fear and destruction, became a stage where intelligence, teamwork, and ingenuity could prevail against seemingly insurmountable odds. By the end of the conflict, the Cook's contribution had saved countless lives, preserved critical supplies, and weakened the effectiveness of one of the most feared weapons of the war, the German U-boat. This story remains a testament to the power of human innovation and the profound impact that one individual can have, even in the vast and perilous theaters of global conflict. In remembering this achievement, we are reminded that true heroism can come from unexpected places, and that even the most unconventional ideas, when executed with precision and determination, can change the course of history. The Cook's legacy extends beyond the Atlantic and beyond World War II itself. His story continues to inspire military strategists, historians, and anyone facing seemingly impossible challenges, demonstrating that careful observation, creative problem-solving, and unwavering courage can produce results that reshape outcomes and leave a lasting mark on history. In conclusion, the tale of one Cook's insane idea is not just a story of naval innovation. It is a story of bravery, ingenuity, and the extraordinary impact of thinking differently. By challenging conventions and applying his unique insight, he helped the Allies secure vital supply lines, protect lives, and maintain operational superiority across the Atlantic. His contribution stands as a powerful reminder that in war, as in life, the combination of intelligence, creativity, and teamwork can overcome even the most formidable challenges, leaving a legacy that endures long after the battles have ended.